Hello everyone, this is Lam here. In today's video, we're going to be wrapping up some news bits that's been going on for the last couple of weeks. Been doing a lot of traveling. I've also been sick, so there's plenty to talk about. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first one that I really want to cover is the firmware updates that are coming out. Specifically, the X-T3 is going to get a major enhancements in its autofocus features. There's going to be much more responsiveness in terms of face detection and eye detection. It looks like it's going to be able to track motion a whole lot better. It's going to be able to display it on the back screen a whole lot smoothly. And we're also seeing that it's able to actually pick up faces from a much further distance. So it's actually looking at detail in a much finer way, which is super awesome. This has definitely been a focus point for a lot of camera manufacturers, in which their autofocus system is definitely bumping up to the next level. And Fuji is keeping up right with the best of them. Now, having said all of that, Fuji's face detection has sometimes been a little bit wonky, like it'll pick up a face when there is no face there. That's always been an issue, so I'm hoping that they've improved upon that. That's something that you see if you have face detection on all of the time. Sometimes the focus will just jump away from your subject onto an object that isn't a face. So that's something that I'm looking forward to testing. Also, a lot of the examples that is showing in this video that I'm showing right now, it's also in very well lit areas, and the subject's also very well lit. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when you're actually put in a more challenging situations, like low light situations or uneven light. Can the face detection keep up even in those situations? Because we find ourselves in those situations quite a bit. So hopefully the autofocus features will keep up in those situations. If it does, then this is going to be one heck of a great firmware update. Now, interestingly enough, the X-T30 already is going to have this update. So if you're buying an X-T30, you're already going to have this firmware update. For the X-T3, it's going to be coming in April, so we have something to look forward to in the next coming months. There's also some other firmware updates to talk about. The X-T100, which is a more entry-level camera, and the X-A5, they're both going to be going to version 2.0. I'm just going to show you the details of those two firmware updates because I don't own either of those cameras, but it's nice to see that they're also improving some of the more entry-level cameras. So if you have one of those cameras, definitely do the firmware update when that gets released. Moving on to the next subject, the remote camera app is actually going to be getting an update. Now, I've already covered this quite a few times. I don't really find the remote camera app to be all that useful because it's very limiting in its functionality, but it looks like it's going to start getting a boost on the camera side or on the photo side, in which you're going to get a little bit more control with your photography. The feature notes didn't really say much about the video side, so I'm going to assume we're not going to be getting any enhancements on the video side, but it is nice to see that they're actually enhancing that application, trying to really firm that up. Hopefully, with the improvements to the photo side, they're going to go ahead and jump next to the video side so that we can get a nice, robust application that we can use both for video and for photo. That's something that I'm going to be looking forward to, and when it does come out, I'm definitely going to go ahead, give it a test, give it a rundown of what it can and cannot do, and what kind of enhancements we're going to see with this new update. The last subject to talk about has to do with the editing of our photos. Capture One has already announced that they're supporting the X-T30, which is excellent. If you're not used to buying new cameras, one of the most annoying things about buying new cameras is that you'll purchase a new camera, you start shooting in RAW, only to find out that Lightroom or whatever editing software that you're using doesn't support that camera currently, so you can't actually use the RAW files. You have to stick with the JPEG files until that application updates. It's really nice to see that Capture One's actually ahead of the game. They already added support for the X-T30, so right out of the box when you get the camera on day one, RAW support's already there. Also, Capture One has added support to a lot of Fuji lenses. I'll go ahead and post that up right here. So it's really nice to see that Capture One is really upping their game. Maybe they're trying to challenge Adobe for their dominance in terms of photo editing. Speaking of Lightroom, they did make a big splash by announcing their AI enhancement feature. This is something that you can use with all RAW files, just not Fuji cameras. But there has been a lot of reports from a lot of Fuji users that by using this feature, they are noticing an increase in detail and also a reduction of artifacts. Now, personally, I would take that with a grain of salt. I've actually been using it for a couple of photos. I haven't used it extensively just because I haven't had time to edit. But from the photos that I have been using it on, and I've tried a wide variety of photos, I'm really not noticing much of a difference, and it's really negligible. And to be honest with you, I have watched the reviews, I have heard about the reviews. You should definitely go watch those and definitely should try yourself, but I don't feel like there's enough of a difference to where I would use this feature all of the time. I don't think the enhancement part of it is enough for me to actually go about trying to increase the size of my files and also adding this step to my workflow. I personally have not had any issues with artifacting. I also think that the details that I'm getting currently without this feature is perfectly fine for what I do. So for me, this is kind of something that I would just keep in the background. If I do have an artifact problem, I now have something that I can try to fix it using a feature in Lightroom. But for the most part, I just see this as another optional feature that I can use. If you are a Fuji user, I definitely recommend that you go ahead and watch some videos, learn about this feature, and it might be a really good tool for your workflow or the work that you do, especially if you're on the more professional side where you're actually getting paid quite a bit of money for your photography. So that was a quick wrap up of all of the news announcements. There's definitely a lot going on in the photography world. Leave your comments. Do you think that we're heading in the right directions? There's definitely a lot of attention being focused on autofocus features. Is that something that you find very useful? I personally do, but that's more on the video side. Do you like all these new features, or are there other features that you much rather have? Definitely tell me what you think, and I will see you in the next video.